abuse of elders in Acholiland. Looking at the video that was circulating in the social media about a young man beating up his grandmother is a sad news for the people of Acholiland. Here is a young man who is already derailed. His mind is not working properly, beating up his grandmother because of money. Is something that we cannot accept. Even if the grandmother and the other children sold their ancestral land and he won a part of that money, he won a share of that money, he should have not acted the way he did, beating up an old woman who worked hard to bring them up single-handed as a woman. If that boy had a brain, he would not even raise his hand on this poor old woman. What is happening in Acholiland today is something that is heartbreaking. The incident we saw in the social media is just a small part of it. Around in Acholiland, abuse of elders is going on. In some cases, it is unnoticed. And that is heartbreaking, because if you start beating up old people because you want money, you don't even think of what this old woman and the elders had gone through. All our elders have gone through hell during the war, during the time they were living in camps. Now they came back home. They are trying to protect ancestral land. They are trying to keep their family together. And this is what they get from our new generation. What sort of people are we bringing up in Acholiland? This young man, I understand, is now arrested. He should be sent to prison for a very, very long time, so that the others could see that if you raise your hand on our elders, you will be punished. We cannot allow this sort of behavior to go on and on without we, as the people who still have their head on, are still there. It cannot go on when the other children are behaving properly towards their grandfathers, their grandmothers, towards the elder, But here we have some few who want to take law into their hand and beat up all women. They have to understand that our elders went through a lot during the war. Some of them lost everything dear to their heart. Men losing their wives, wives losing their husband. Some of them lost their children. In other cases, you'll find that the entire family is gone. And here is a grandmother who is taking care of his grandchildren. And it is the same grandchildren who are mistreating her, who are beating her up. It is a shame for the entire population. It's a shame for the entire Acholi community. When I saw that film circulating on social media, I was annoyed, deeply hurt with this sad and senseless action of a young man who should have known that it was the same grandmother that made him who he is today. We have a lot of elders in Acholiland who are suffering, sometimes in the hand of their own grandchildren, their children, and sometimes in the hand of people they brought in to come and stay with them. Some during the war, some because the family was married to their families. They brought them in. They received them with open arms. And they said, we are in-laws. Come and stay near here. When the time comes, you should use your head and try to go back to your ancestral land. All of us, we have ancestral land. All of us are connected through marriages. And if that family welcome you into their family, into their ancestral land, the fact is, it does not make you the owner of that land. Whatever law is passed, that law does not make sense. Ancestral land belongs to the people of that place. All of us, we have ancestral land. If you want to beat up elders because of land, because you want to sell them, or because you want to be a part of that land, then it's better you trace your origin, where you come from. Go there, you have your ancestral land. When I saw the video, which is distasteful, insulting, and reducing us as Acholi people to nothing, it tells us we have failed to control our own children, our own grandchildren, because we are living in a broken society. And that broken society needs repair. And that repair starts by ourselves. Start from the remaining family after the war. Remaining families after the war. That we have to come together and try to teach these boys and girls who are now basing their argument on children's rights, on human rights, on women's rights, on disabilities' rights. We have to do something about it. You see, if we start translating laws when we really don't understand what that laws mean, then we are getting ourselves into trouble and more trouble, and the beating of elders will continue, and the mistreatment of elders by their children, by their grandchildren will continue. We have to go back to a system of Wang-oo, where you sit down, you talk with one another, you talk to your children. If they're not listening, bring the relatives, bring the brothers, bring the uncles in. You sit down, you try to look for a solution to this problem. Because the beating we saw of a whole woman, a grandmother, is not going to stop soon. We had been hearing a lot of stories about the same incident going around in our homeland. And it is immersive. We have lost control. When I saw that film, I was annoyed. I was really annoyed. The only thing I could do is trying to calm down. And I was listening to a very nice song played by DJ 𝙏𝙗𝙖𝙠 sometimes back. Every time I'm annoyed, I pull that CD and I played. He was predicting a lot of things. He said there was a man who travels a crooked way, and he managed to get a crooked money. And that crooked money bought a crooked cat. And that crooked cat bought a crooked rat. And that crooked rat released a crooked shit. That is what is going on in our homeland. That is going on. Something that we, the people of Acholi, should have not allowed to happen at all. That is something that our leaders should have not allowed to happen at all. But we are now sitting down, seeing what is happening with the broken hearts because we have a woman named called 𝙏𝙝𝙖𝙣𝙠 𝙁𝙤 is a cry after. 𝙁𝙤 means if I knew. If I knew usually comes later. When you close your eyes, you don't see what is coming. You don't even smell it. And when it happens, then you start crying. If I knew, if I knew. And that woman is very powerful again. And that is what is happening to us. When we came back from the camp, instead of organizing ourselves properly, we started going into a life that does not fit our status. Our mind is only focused on money, 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 and money. But if you listen very careful to the song of 𝙏𝙫 𝙁𝙤𝙪, it tells you exactly what I said about a crooked man, a crooked cat, a crooked rat, and a crooked journey that we are following today. Imagine the grandmother who is beaten up. If she was your mother, or your auntie, or your sister, what would you do? Would you just stand there and watch this madman beating up your relatives? No. I'm glad that the man is arrested, but the punishment he has to get should not be 6 months, 1 year. Those type of people who goes around beating elders in Acholiland should be locked out for a very, very long time. I don't mind if they give him 10 years or 20 years. We have to send a message to the new generation that we cannot allow such things to happen to our elders. Some of us are now following the footsteps of the elders, as you can see from me. We are following the footsteps of the elders. I don't want to be walking around today thinking that if I come home, my grandchildren, whether it's the grandchildren of my brother or my sister, they will come and beat me up. I don't want to go around walking with that feeling that I'll be beaten up. Maybe we, the generation who are following the footsteps of our elders, we have to start planning for our self-defense. We have to organize ourselves so that when the time comes, we can be ready to defend ourselves. The message we should be sending to the new generation is that this sort of behavior should stop. If not, then we have to find a way of organizing how we can defend our elders. Even if it means using the law of Moses, which says, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. We shall do that to protect our elders. It is not something the elders and those following the footsteps of the elders pray for. But if we continue with this type of mentality, attitude against the whole people, so help me God, the whole people will also organize themselves. And they will have a protection unit. We used to be a society, a community that helped one another. When we were growing up, the family's ties were so strong that you go to your uncle's place, you'll be received. You'll be welcome. You go to your auntie's place, you'll be received. You'll be welcome. All the elders, the grandfathers, the grandmothers, they're always welcome. And when we go to visit them, they always receive us with open arms. They used to give us all the love a family gives to one another. But today in Acholiland, we have these children's rights, human rights, women's rights, disabled rights. Now, what is happening in Acholiland? If you create so many laws, try to explain the law to the people so that they understand what that laws mean. What is a child right? A child right is if you're living in your parents' house, in your father's and mother's house, or you're living in your ancestors' land, you have to obey the rules and regulations they have in place. When you're above 18, you're free to go wherever you want to go and do whatever you want to do. But don't do it in a place that belongs to your father or your mother. In Acholiland, if you grow up or you become a man enough, your family will show you a place that you go that way. Put your house there and take care of your wife there. If you get drunk, you get drunk there in your own house without coming here to beat your father up, to beat your mother up, or to beat your grandmother. That one is not acceptable. We have a structure in Acholiland. Let me come back to it again. We have a structure in Acholiland. Everything is in place, but we are not using it. We are not putting it into good use. We have the instrument. We have the structure. We have everything we need. But we are not putting it into a proper use. Let me appeal to the members of parliament from Acholiland. You are the structures. You are the instrument. Let me appeal to actually leaders, local leaders. Let me appeal to the paramount chief of Acholiland and his chiefs. You are the structure. You are the instrument. You are the legal custodian of Acholi cultural institution. You have all the powers, the three I mentioned, to put a stop to beating of elders in Acholiland. You have the instrument, you have the structure. It is your duty to make sure that you, the paramount chief, and the chiefs exert their power on the people you're ruling, on the people who are your citizens. Even if you have to come with a bylaw that forbid children beating up elders, we are going to welcome it with open arms. The members of parliament in Acholiland, they are the structures, they are the instrument, but they're not using those structures and instruments. You have a constituency. You have the responsibility to the people because they elected you to represent themselves. And it is time you live up to the promise you made to the people of Acholiland. And you, the custodian of Acholiland, including the chiefs, you should work together. You should not try to undermine one another. What we are seeing today in the social media should have not been there if you people were taking your job seriously. You see, being a chief, or being a paramount chief, or being a member of parliament, or being actually local leaders, it's not something that is handed over to you on a silver plate. It is handed over to you because the people believe you can fight for them. The people believe you can protect them. The people believe that you are capable of doing that job. And if you're not, then it's a high time you say, I'm sorry, I cannot do the job I wanted to do. It is now time to step down and let somebody else take it. To the actually cultural leaders, being a chief is something that is a tradition. It used to be a very wonderful tradition, a tradition that kept our people together for a long time, a tradition that goes from family to family. So if one member of the family is not able to do a cultural gift, then you can look and say, my brother, maybe you can do it better than me. So we leave it to another brother to do it. If we want to continue the same tradition, the same rules, then we have to take our cultural heritage very seriously. And my appeal to all of you, just come out with ideas. Come out with something that will help the people of Acholiland, that will teach our children that there's no room in Acholiland for misbehaving, beating up elders, or going and taking other people's land that does not belong to you. And this has to be pumped into the mind of our citizens. You have to take care of your citizens. They are your subjects. You, the cultural leaders, your role is not political. Your role is cultural. It means you have to take it very seriously. You are not like the member of parliament, because the member of parliament, they come and go. But you, the paramount chief and his chief, you are there to stay. You are there to stay. You are not elected, but the member of parliament are. When their times come, they will leave. So ladies and gentlemen, reactivate the Wang-oo in all homes and villages, in all the house of chiefs, the house of paramount chief. Use the power given to you to rule your citizens and to control their behaviors. And to the poor elders and the poor woman, the grandmother who is beaten up by her grandson, Don't lose hope. You have done your best, like all the elders in Acholiland. You work very hard to bring those kids up. That is where you have been shedding your tears for your loss. There are some of those grandchildren who turn out to be good and reasonable. We have a saying in Acholiland that one frog can spoil the water. Don't let that one frog spoil the water, because you still have some of the grandchildren who love you, and we love you too, and we wish you a quick recovery. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. I will be back.